There's a story. Sometimes it's called the other Magi, sometimes it's called the fourth Magi. It's been made at least twice into TV movies. The last time about 25 years ago, and it starred Martin Sheen and the wonderful Alan Arkin. I looked for it this Christmas season, but in my channel surfing, I couldn't find it on any of the channels on cable. Too bad. But nevertheless, the story goes like this. The central character is one of the Magas. That's the singular of the word we know as Magi. His name is Artaban. The Magi were a caste of a profession in the Persian Empire. They were truly the wise men of the Persian Empire. They advised the king of Persia, who used to use the title of King of Kings to refer to himself. Most of them were one or more of the above. They were astronomers and astrologers. They were philosophers, poets, scientists, physicians, maybe one or two of those, maybe a little bit of all of those. So you can see why they were thought to be the very wise men of the Persian Empire. Well, Artaban is the son of the head of the Magi Guild. And of course, the father wants the son to follow in his footsteps, doesn't he? And he wants Artaban to take his place one day. But Artaban has another idea. See, he's been in discussion with three other Magi who have discovered a new star in the heavens. And all four of them think that this star is a portent that a new King of Kings is being born into the world. And they want to follow that star. So he tells his father he wants to leave. The father is heartbroken because he doesn't want him to leave, but Artaban leaves anyway. He leaves with his trusty servant. That's the one played by Alan Arkin in the movie. And they're on the way to a meeting place where the other three are supposed to meet with him. They're supposed to go off together. But on the way, he runs into a dispute. There's some fighting and arguing going on, and he intervenes. He does an intervention, and he's carrying a whole pocket full of gems and jewels of various sorts. And so to bring peace about, he uses one of those precious stones to bring about peace between the combatants. And he goes on his way. Well, to make a long story short, by the time he gets to the meeting place, the other three Magi have already left. And throughout the story, he seems to be one step behind the other three Magi. He starts to follow the star on his own, which eventually brings him to Bethlehem. But the Magi have left, and the Holy Family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph have fled into Egypt. So he starts to wander around, and finally he makes his way to Egypt. But again, he's too late. The Holy Family have left. It seems like he's missed his opportunity to find that newborn king, the new King of Kings. Well, on his way back to Persia, he's in the hill country of Judea, and he gets accosted by some of the marginalized, some of the outcasts who are living in the caves outside of Jerusalem. And when he gets brought into their camp, he sees that they really need some help. They need a physician, they need somebody with organizational skills, so on and so forth. So he decides to stay for a day. The day turns into a week turns into a year, and a year turns into what becomes the rest of his life. And in the process, he uses up all the jewels he brought, except for one. He has a pearl left. And he's still trying to find that King of Kings. Well, in the camp, there was a boy who was blind. And he tried for years to treat this boy to bring his sight back. But he failed. And then one day he was amazed when he saw the boy come back into camp and he could see. It really disturbed him because he used all his skills and he was a great physician. And he said, "How did you get your sight back? I've tried for years to restore your sight." And the boy said, "Well, there was this rabbi I saw. His name is Jesus of Nazareth. He restored my sight." So Artaban thinks that this might be the man he's been looking for his entire life. Now, by this time, he's elderly, and he has a heart condition. But he gets his trusty servant to help take him to Jerusalem. And right before he enters Jerusalem, he sees one of his fellow magus there with his daughter. And his daughter is being taken away by the Roman soldiers to be sold into slavery to pay a debt. So he intervenes. He gives up his last jewel, that pearl of great price, to secure her freedom. He now enters Jerusalem. But you see, it's Good Friday. And this one he's been searching for his whole life is being nailed to a cross and suffering a horrible death. On the verge of his own death, and in despair, he hears a voice that says, "Artaban, don't be brokenhearted. You found me years ago. For whatever you did to the least of my brothers and sisters, you did to me." And he said, "Well, Lord, when did I ever minister to you? Tell me, my king, how did I do that?" And he said, "When I was thirsty, you gave me to drink. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was naked, you clothed me. For indeed, whenever you did to the least of my brothers and sisters, you did for me." Artaban's expression changes from one of dire dread to happiness. He turns to his companion, his compatriot of all these years. He said, "Did you hear the voice?" He says, "No, I didn't hear any voice." Well, it was the voice of the king. He's accepted my gift after all. I found him after all these years. And he dies. And he dies a happy man because he knows his life indeed was not wasted. His servant, who's been trying to get back to Persia from day one, decides to go back to the caves and to pick up the ministry that Artaban left behind. You see, the story of Artaban is the story of many people in the world today. Consider a young woman who wants to have a professional career, but she meets a man and falls in love and decides to be a stay-at-home wife and mother. To the world, she never accomplished her dream of professional success. But one day she'll hear the words of the king say to her, just like he said to Artaban, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Which you did for your family, you did for me." And there's a story of a man who wanted to work his way up the corporate ladder. He worked with integrity. He worked very hard. But the breaks, they just seemed to go against him. He was not a success in business at all. That'd be a sad story if it ended there. But one day he'll hear the words from the king, too, that says, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant. What you did with integrity, you did for me." Or again, a story about a young man who's a professional drummer and singer, who's part of a band that's on their way up. They're going to be a hit one day. And he decides he has a call to be a Catholic priest, enters the seminary, and becomes a priest for the Diocese of Dallas. One day, he'll hear the king say to him, "Well done. What you did for your parishioners, you did for me." The solemnity of the Epiphany reminds us, you and me, that we all have a great gift to give, a gift that's more precious than any gold, frankincense, and myrrh. It's the gift of our life, done in love, in charity, and service for others. And if we live such a life, we too will hear, "What you did for others, you did for me. Welcome into the joy of your Lord."